Now that we have our custom event listeners and emitters in place, it's time to actually wire up the message system. So when one user sends a message to the server, it actually gets sent to every connected user. If I have two tabs open and I emit a create message event from one tab, I should see the message arrive in the second one. Now, to test things locally, we're going to be using separate tabs, but the same would work on Heroku with separate browsers on separate networks. As long as everyone has the same URL in their browser, they are going to be connected, regardless of which machine they're on. Now, obviously, for localhost, we don't have that privilege, but as we deploy to Heroku, which we will be doing in this video, we'll be able to test this out between, say, your phone and the browser running on your machine. To get started, we're going to update the create message listener. Currently, all we do is log the data to the screen. Instead of just logging it, we actually want to emit a new event, a new message event to everybody. So every single connected user gets the message that was sent from a specific user. In order to get that done, we're going to call a method on io.emit. Socket.emit emits an event to a single connection. io.emit emits an event to every single connection. Here, we are going to emit the event, new message, specifying it as our first argument. And the second argument, as with socket.emit, is the data you want to send. Now, we know we're getting a from property and a text property from the client. Those appear right here, which means what we need to do is pass those along. Setting from equal to message.from and setting text equal to message.text. Now, alongside of from and text, we're also going to specify a created at property, and this is going to get generated by the server to prevent a specific client from spoofing when a message was created. Created at gets set equal to a new date, and we're going to call the get time method to get that timestamp back, which we've done before. Now that we have this in place, we actually have messaging wired up. We can go ahead and remove our emit calls from both server.js and index.js right here. Make sure to save both files, and with this in place, we can go ahead and test this by opening up two connections to the server and emitting some events. I'm going to start up the server inside of the terminal using node mon server /server.js, and inside of the browser, we can now open up two tabs, both at localhost 3000. For both tabs, I am going to open up the developer tool since that's currently the graphic user interface for our application. We don't have any forms just yet, which means we need to use the console to run some statements. We'll do the same thing for a second tab, and notice that as soon as we open that second tab, we get a second new user connected message in the terminal. You should be seeing this message when you have your two tabs open. Now that we have our two tabs open, we can go ahead and emit a create message event from either one. I'm going to emit it from the second one by calling socket.emit, emitting a custom event. The event name is create message, and it takes those two props we just discussed, the from property and the text property, both of which I'm going to specify in this object. From is going to get set equal to my first name, Andrew, and text is going to get set equal to, inside of quotes, this should work. With this in place, I can now emit my event from the browser. It's going to go to the server, which is going to send the message to every connected user, including the currently connected user who sent the message. I'm going to hit enter. It fires it off, and you see we get new message right here. We have the message we just created, but the cool thing is that over in the other tab, we also have the message. A message from one user reached a user in a separate tab, which is fantastic. With this in place, we now have a very basic messaging system set up. A user emits an event, it goes to the server, and the server sends it to everyone else who is connected. With this in place, I'd like to make a commit and deploy to Heroku so we can test it out. We're not done yet. We are going to set up a few more things and do a challenge, but there's no reason we can't commit twice in one video. If I run git status, I see I have my two changed files as expected. I can then run git commit with the AM flag to specify a message for this commit. Something like emit new message on create message will get the job done. I can then go ahead and actually make the commit, pushing it up to both GitHub and Heroku. Git push is going to get it on GitHub, and git push Heroku master is going to deploy it live to the web. And we'll be able to open up our chat application and make sure it works regardless of the browser, computer, or any other variable. Here we go. We are compressing and launching the app. It looks like everything is done. I'm going to go ahead and use Heroku Open to open it up. This is going to open it up in my default browser. And right here, you see we have welcome to the chat application. Now to demo this, what I'm going to do is open up a separate browser. I'm going to open up Firefox and type in the exact same URL. I'm going to copy this URL. Then I'll grab the Firefox browser, making it smaller so we can quickly switch between the two. Opening up the Heroku app here. Now, Firefox also has developer tools available via this menu. Here we have a developer section, and we're looking for the web console. Now that we have this open, we can go into the developer tools for our Chrome tab connected to the Heroku application. And what we're going to do is emit an event. Using socket.emit, we're going to emit a create a message event. We're going to specify our custom properties inside of the object. We can go ahead and have from set to Mike, and we can set the text equal to Heroku. Now, when I go ahead and emit this event, everything should work as expected. We're calling socket.emit, emitting create message. We have our data, which means it's going to go to the Heroku server, which will send it over to Firefox. I'm going to send this off. We get the new message right here. And over inside of Firefox, we also have the message. It's from Mike. The text is Heroku, and we have the created at timestamp added by our server. And with this in place, we have a messaging system not only working locally, but working on Heroku, which means anybody in the world can visit this URL, they can emit the event, and everyone else connected is going to see that event in the console. Now that we've tested it out across browser, I am going to close down Firefox, and we're going to move on to the second part of this video, which is talking about a different way to emit events. Some events you want to send to everybody. A new message should go to every single user, including the one who sent it, so it can show up inside of the list of messages. Other events, on the other hand, should only go to other people. So if user 1 emits an event, it shouldn't go back to user 1. It should only go to user 2 and 3. A good example of this is when a user joins a chat room. I want to print a little message like Andrew joined when someone joins, and I want to print a message like welcome Andrew for the actual user who joined. So in this tab, I would see welcome Andrew, and over here, I would see Andrew joined. In order to get that done, we're going to look at a different way to emit events in the server. This is going to get done via broadcasting. Broadcasting is the term for emitting an event to everybody but one specific user. I'm going to start up the server once again using nodemon server/server.js, and over inside of Atom, we can now tweak how we emit the event right here. Now this is going to be the final way we do things, but we'll play around with broadcasting as well, which means I'm going to comment this out as opposed to removing it. To broadcast, we have to specify the individual socket. This lets the socket.io library know which user shouldn't get the event. In this case, the user that we call right here is not going to get the event. Everyone else will. Now we need to call socket.broadcast. Broadcast is an object that has its own emit function, and it's the exact same syntax as io.emit or socket.emit. The big difference is who it gets sent to. This is going to send the event to everybody but this socket, which means if I fire a create message event, the new message event will fire to everybody but myself. And that's exactly what we can do here. It's going to be identical, which means we can go ahead and pass in the message event name. The arguments are going to be identical. The first one is going to be the event name, new message, and the other one is going to be the object with our properties, from equals message.from, text equals message.text, and last up we have created at equal to a new timestamp, new date, dot, get time. With this in place, we are not going to see the messages we send, but everybody else will. We can prove this by heading over to Google Chrome. I'm going to give both tabs a refresh. And from the second tab, once again, we are going to emit an event. Now we can actually use the up arrow key inside of the web developer console to rerun one of our previous commands, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Here we're emitting a create message event with a from property set to Andrew and a text equal to this should work. If I hit enter to send this off, you're going to notice that this tab no longer receives the message, But if I go to localhost 3000, we are getting new message showing up with the message data. This is because tab 2 broadcasted the event, which means it only got received by other connections such as tab 1 or any other connected user. With broadcasting in place, it's time to set up your challenge. Now, as I mentioned, we're not going to actually use broadcast in this context. We're going to comment this out so you have it for reference during the challenge, and we're going to uncomment our old code. This is going to be the final way we emit messages. Your challenge is going to be to emit 2 events right here, right when a user connects. You're going to first call socket.emit to emit a message to the user who joined. Your message should come from the admin, and the text should say something like, "Welcome to the chat app." Now, along with socket.emit, you're also going to call socket.broadcast.emit. This is going to get sent to everybody but the user who joined, which means you can go ahead and set from equal to admin once again, and you can set text equal to new user joined. This means that when we join a chat room, we're going to see a message greeting us, and everyone else is going to see a message letting them know that someone else joined. Both of these events are going to be new message events, just like we emit one right here. We're going to have to specify from, which is admin, the text, which is whatever I said it should be, and created at. Go ahead and add those 2 statement calls here, then go ahead and test it in the browser. Close both your tabs, open one, then open a second one. The second one should see the greeting, and the first one should see the alert that a new user joined. Take a moment to knock this out, test it, and when you're done, click play. Hopefully that went well and you were able to get both of those calls working as expected. To kick things off, we're going to fill out the first call. This is a call to socket.emit. And this call is going to be responsible for greeting the individual user. We are still going to send an event of a type new message, and we are still going to send the exact same data from text and created at. The only difference here is that we're going to be generating all of the properties as opposed to getting some of them from the user like we do below. Let's get started with from. This one is going to be from the admin. Anytime we send a message via the server, we'll call that admin. And the text is going to be our little message, "Welcome to the chat app." Later on, we'll greet them by name. We don't have that information for the moment, so we're going to stick with a generic greeting. With this call in place, we can remove the comment and we can move on to the second one. This is our broadcast call that's going to alert every other user except for the one who joined that someone new is here. To get that done, we're going to use socket.broadcast.emit, and we're going to emit a new message event, providing our props. From, once again, is going to get set equal to the string admin. The text is going to get set equal to our little message, new user joined. And later on, we'll also be adding a user name here, but for now, we'll keep it generic. And last up is created at, which I forgot up above. Created at is going to get set equal to a new date by calling the dateGetTime method. With the date in place for this call, we'll also add it for the one above. Excellent. Now we can remove our comment for the second call, and we are done the challenge. Everything should work as expected. The next thing you needed to do was test out that all of this is working as expected by heading into the browser. There's a couple ways you could have done it. As long as you got it done, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose to close both of my old tabs. I'm then going to open up the developer tools before ever visiting the page. Then we can go to localhost 3000 and we should see a little message right here. Here we see a new message, "Welcome to the chat app printing," which is fantastic. Next up, we want to test that the broadcast is working as expected. For the second tab, I'm also going to open up the developer tools. I'm going to go to localhost 3000 once again, and once again we get our little message, "Welcome to the chat app." If we go to the first tab, we also see that a new user joined, and this is fantastic. With this in place, we now have a rudimentary but working messaging system, which is a great place to start. We're going to continue on in the next video, adding more features and building out the UI. But before we do that, I am going to make a commit to save these changes. Let's go ahead and shut down the server and use git status. Then we can go ahead and run git commit with the AM flag and specify a message right here. Greet new user, and alert others. Once the commit is in place, we can use git push to push it up to GitHub. There's no need to deploy to Heroku right now, although you could easily deploy and test if you feel so inclined. With this in place, we are now done. I will see you in the next one.